My dad used to always say, if you could be yourself in a world like this, it's the hardest thing in the world to be. Really try to be yourself. Like, I want the biggest payroll here because I feel people deserve to work here. I don't want people working for other companies because they get taken advantage of. They get screwed. They don't pay is not right. Like, that bothers me. I want them working here because I think they'll be treated fairly. And I've always been a team guy, right? I'm not a my own guy. Like, I can't motivate myself. I mean, I already know I can't do anything. So, I'm stuck here. But when I get around people, like, that's my energy, right? And when I was a kid, I just assumed everyone was like me, right? You wake up in the morning, you're smiling, you're happy, you're moving about it. And as I'm older, I just realized no one feels no one's even close. Like, everyone has their own personality, right? And, I can't be by myself. I don't want to be by myself. I look back at every bad decision we made. And man, from the time I was a kid, like, I can't even explain. But the beauty is, everything that bad happened turned out to be great. I'd rather have someone fighting for me every day than fighting against me every day.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Okay.
My man, Steve Wise, the founder of NCW. They are a Libra leasing company, talent acquisition. I've watched this guy do some amazing things. Steve, how long have we known each other?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I would say we probably met 25. How long ago was your brother married?
Not sure.
25 years ago
Talking a couple
or
decades.
more?
We're talking about a couple decades now.
More than
And
25 years.
our listeners are in for a treat today because we're going to talk about a bunch of different things. You're going to tell a little bit about your story. We'll reminisce about some good old memories, and we'll see kind of where the conversation takes us. So welcome, and I appreciate you joining me.
Great. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it a lot.
Cool. Why don't you start by just kind of give us a little bit of a background, because you do have some funny stories. I mean, and I think about like how you started off in business, and I think about just your journey from, bowling balls to to construction work.
Right, right.
You have some good stories, but let's just kick back real quick and first start. Tell me who had the biggest impact on you in your life when you were younger.
I mean, probably the basics like my father 100% did, right? Teaching me about, not paying interest on credit cards, you know, holding the job, pensions important, buy stocks that pay a dividend, just little things like that that made a difference. I think that was the getting me into business was him, right? Teaching me how to get into a business.
And you went to Ohio State?
I went to Ohio State for a while. It didn't last very long. And the funny thing was about Ohio State, it's a funny story. When I walk on the campus with my parents, I looked around and I saw all these kids and I saw all these things, and I'm like, I'm never going to graduate from this place, but I will stay here as long as I possibly can. So I didn't have a lot of plans to get through it, but I made it about a year.
And you were in a fraternity there?
I was in a fraternity there. That's where I met your brother. Wild times, man. I look back at how life was back then. Future was not an important piece of my life at that point.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah, had a good time out there
and
for sure.
things looked a lot different at Ohio State at that time.
Things looked a lot different in Ohio State back then. Yes, they did.
I
It
don't
was
know.
the Wild West.
I would think it does, but like my view on college has shifted and changed since not only have I gone to college, but now just being out and being in the workforce. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are today about college and kids who are in high school trying to figure out what they want to do.
It's funny. We were talking about this last week. So, I mean, you know my journey pretty well. I've never been a big believer in education. I read something somewhere that said, um, I love to learn. I just hate being taught, right? And I do love to learn, but I do hate being taught because I'm a tough learner. It's hard for me to learn from somebody else. So for me, education was always complicated, right? It was hard, didn't know what I was doing, made me feel somewhat dumb, right? Like they're giving me these assignments that I don't even understand what they're talking about. People are like, you need to try harder. I'd be like, try harder. Like A times X doesn't equal anything. Those are letters versus numbers. I never understood a lot of that stuff. Now that we've hired to more talent and more education, there's definitely a huge value in education, but the participant has to be willing to accept it and learn.
Right. So what did you do? You went to college for a year and then what?
I went to college for a year, essentially dropped out, knew it wasn't working. My dad kind of pulled me out, and I went and sold cars for a while at a place called Kurt Greenwald Chevrolet, selling used cars. Job I loved. I was good at it. Connected with a ton of people, and I was a good salesman. And then I got an opportunity to sell bowling balls, which is what my father did. My father actually invented the polyester bowling ball, which is kind of a whole another story. I'm not going to get into it, but he got bought out for $1 by a company called Columbia Industries, which was a bowling ball manufacturer. He became a sales guy for them, and then he was going to retire soon. And he was always worried about my future. As it looked bleak when I was young. And he said, "Hey man, maybe you come to work for Columbia and take over my route." And I went and interviewed, and that's what happened. I kind of became a bowling ball salesman through that, which was an interesting job. Much better than it sounds, actually, as a young kid. Traveled a ton. But yeah, so I became a bowling ball salesman.
And I can't remember if you told me a really funny story about it or maybe how it ended. I can't remember. I remember laughing really hard. But how long did you do that?
So I did it probably 3 years. And basically, it wasn't even a sales job, right? Basically, they had a distributor in each state, or in a state like New York, maybe like 20 distributors. But like a town like Indiana, the state of Indiana, you had like one or two. And my job would be to go and sell that guy bowling balls. Well, that guy already knew what bowling balls he needed for the year, and he'd have his order already. My job was basically to find the cheapest shipping for this guy. And then I was supposed to go to every bowling alley in the state and explain the bowling balls. So when they bought the balls from this guy, they would know everything about it. I don't know that I was very good at the job anyway. And then I ended up having some problems. I lost my license, which in turn made me lose the job because I was a traveling salesman with no license. And at the time, I remember my mom saying, "Oh my God, what are you going to do? Your life's over." I'm like, "That was a shit job. Like, I'll buy that whole company." And looking back now, like, no plans, no future, no nothing. And then I, tried a million jobs and got fired from most of them. I told Dan the other day, I sold Hallmark gift. I worked for a manufacturer's rep selling like, you know, stuff to Hallmark stores, right? Like I was so bad at selling that stuff. It was terrible. But I had a million jobs like that just didn't pan for me.
I've
And
always
then I
said that
found trade.
I've always said that I'm unemployable, but you might be the most unemployable person.
I am 100% like I say, joke all the time. At this company, I wouldn't last 4 hours here.
Your own
They
company.
would fire me in 4 hours. If I came in Monday, I'd be gone by noon. Yeah, it makes
So
me sad, but it's true.
what was the entry point into your current company? What happened? How did you get into that?
So, again, it's funny. We just had our thing called Ignite this week, which is our big company get together at the end of the year, go over, last year's goals. Did we hit them? Did we not? What do we need to do better? What's next year look like? And, we've grown a ton, so it's a lot of fun. But I had to give the history of NCW, like how we started. And one of the questions was, why did you take the job with Tradesman International? And I'm thinking, why did I take the job? I mean, someone actually offered me a job. Anybody that offered me a job, I took it. It didn't matter. I needed a job. But I went to work for these guys called Tradesman International, which was a small company at the time in Cleveland. I think I might have been the fifth or sixth employee, maybe seventh at tops. And I got to watch this little company when I started that had 100 field employees. In 5 years, I think they had 10,000 field employees.
Uh,
And it was crazy. And it was the first time in my life I got to see like something really happen. Like, oh my God, like this, there's a possibility here. There is something here. This is incredible.
and what did they do?
And
What was the job? What were
So basically, I started as a sales guy, right? And my job was to go convince contractors to use our labor. And at the time, there was, the day labor stuff, manpower, labor ready. And I was out to sell these guys the fact that I had skilled labor that were working for what they called a temporary labor firm that we were going to send out, and they were going to be able to do electrical work and plumbing work. And they were journeymen and they were great. And these guys were like, not possible. So the sell at that time was, we are doing this and we're doing it right. It's a whole different world. Now everybody uses the service. Now I have to convince these people that we are different than our competition, which I think is easier, right? Because if you try to convince someone to ride a bicycle, it'd be hard. If everyone already had a bicycle and you had the best one, it'd be easier to show them, hey, you got a good bike there. But here, man, here's the Mac Daddy of bikes. So I think it's easier today, but there's just a lot more competition, a lot more
right,
manufacturers of bikes.
right. So you got into it.
So I got into it. So worked at Tradesman about 4 or 5 years. I don't know exact. Started in '92, so almost 33 years ago, 31 years ago, whatever that would be. Uh, Worked there for 4 years. Uh, Started opening up new offices. Learned a lot, right? Like learned a lot about how to I guess, manage people in some ways, right? Like how do you get the most out of people? And everyone's different. And some people needed love, some people needed yelling, some people need, yeah, I learned a lot. And I learned a lot about myself. Like, oh my God, there is possibilities. I can actually do some stuff. This is incredible. Like there is business to be done out here. And we started doing it. And as a company grows, I looked at it like, God, how valuable am I to this company, right? And after 5 years, I think they were doing, geez, I don't even know, maybe $200 million in sales. Like they became really big. And I'm still thinking, oh, they can't do this without me. And they fired me because of whatever, old cancer to the business. And I'm like, these bad, like this is insane. These people can never make it. And then just realizing like I'm just some dart on the wall over there. But what I did realize at the time, what made tradesmen or what made the company so great when I started was the culture, right? We were young, we were growing, we talked about the future. I loved going to work. And I remember my boss said, if your sunroof's not open, your radio's not on full blast, you're working at the wrong place. And I just remember every day driving from Akron to Cleveland, sunroof open, radio on full blast, jamming out, ready to get to work. And I loved it and I couldn't wait. And it's not even that I loved the job that much. I loved the people that I worked with. I loved my boss. I loved the concept of what they were trying to accomplish. And then as we grew, all that changed, right? It became how many hours did you do? How much business are we doing? What's the revenue? What's the thing? And it's like, God, the pressure became so immense. And it was like, God, this isn't that fun anymore. This sucks. And then as an older employee, I'm telling the newer employees how good things used to be. This place used to be great. Now it sucks. I'm terrible for the business. Horrible. Right. I mean, I'm cancer to this place. And I don't even realize it. I'm just, how great things used to be. So I think at that time in my life, I realized that day, like, business is great, measurables are great, goals are great, volume's great, but what's great are people, right? Having a business full of incredible people is what I want. But volume will come, right? Dollars will come. And if you're doing the right things, I think they will at least. And I think that I was right. I might have been right at the end of the day. Like treating people right, having a great culture, and just making people have the radio on full blast with sunroofs open on the way to work means something. So that's where I sit today. I believe in that.
Okay, good.
So
So
anyway,
then,
yeah, you asked the question, how did this get started?
yeah.
I got fired from there. I went to Florida, started selling tires, got into the tire distributor business with a friend of mine. Again, terrible business, but had a ton of fun. Like was young, single, Florida, a lot going on, Miami. Never wanted to come home. Wasn't making much money, but didn't really care. It's kind of the boss of the place. It all looked okay from the outside. And it wasn't a terrible gig. And a friend of mine who got me the job at Tradesman originally called and said, "Hey, man, I'm fired. I know you have a bunch of stuff to get this thing going." Because I tried to start after I left Tradesman. I didn't realize I'd signed a non-compete clause. I didn't even know what that meant. And this attorney called me and said, "Hey, cease and desist tomorrow." And I was like, "Fuck you. What are you talking about? Not happening." And then I just ignored it. And then I started getting these registered letters, which I didn't even open. I didn't even know what registered letter meant at the time. And then I got a voicemail because we didn't have cell phones, and it said, if you don't cease and desist, you will be sued. I think you need to contact an attorney. And this is from Tradesman's attorney. And I called this guy named Jim Pichel in Akron, and we went and met, and I showed him this non-compete, and he's like, "Yeah, you signed this, right? Like you can't get into business." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I can do whatever I want." And that's when I realized, like, no, you can't. There are laws, and and again, why did I take the job with Tradesman? Because they gave me a job. They gave me a bunch of paperwork to sign it and look at any. I just signed it. And then I realized that I had a non-compete clause, so I couldn't get into the business, and that's why I went to Florida. And
Okay.
then I came home, went to work with Tim, and we started this company called Construction Labor Contractors. And we did that, again, just like as any partnership sometimes don't work. We grew it. We opened 5 or 6, 7 offices. And then I just thought we were doing too much, and I wanted to have one central office location that, wasn't trying to take over the world, just trying to take over a little city, and
And
that's kind of how I
is
got
this
here.
when is this when you came to Columbus?
This is when I came. Well, this is so I came to Indianapolis first with your brother and the other guy, and we just, we had some problems opening. And again, administratively, I'm very weak. Wasn't prepared to open. I thought I was. I didn't have workers' comp. I thought I did. Took 90 days. Like I was just here paying people. It was terrible, to start. But again, you're learning these things as you go. So then we opened here, did really well after I think the second year, and then that's when we opened in Columbus, and that's when you and I started to spend a lot more time together.
So it's funny because hearing your story and just all the blunders of getting you to that point, all of a sudden it just jumped to, yeah, we had 5 or 6 locations. So what is it that you feel like you had as your unique ability, your strength? Because you obviously know what you didn't have, right? I mean, you've said it.
Right, sure.
But what did you have that got you from like, hey, we went and started this, and the next thing I know, I got 5 or 6 offices. Like, how did you do that? Because people can't just do that.
You know, it's funny, like, again, you don't know your abilities of what they are until you look back and see, okay, what was I good at doing it, right? I mean, I was a really good connector of people, myself to them, right? And I care, and I do care. I mean, I have 100 and some people here. I think every one of them tell you individually, I care as much as anyone they've ever met, and I truly, truly do. Like, I need this to work. Um, I think just building a dream together, like this is what we can accomplish together. And not pretending like I knew anything, like I knew nothing. And you and I used to joke all the time how little we knew. And I try to pretend like maybe I know a little more. As I start knowing more, I realize, God, we knew a lot less than I thought we did. You know what I mean? Like you used to
100%.
say it all the time. God, I just don't know. I'm like, I kind of know. I don't know how to do anything. I mean, and it's kind of amazing. It's probably better that way because had I known all the stuff I didn't know, I might not have tried. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. For
So
sure.
it's just interesting.
What was when as you were growing the business, and now take us fast forward to when and it's incredible when I think about entrepreneurship. Like you are the like poster child for entrepreneur for like what an entrepreneur has to experience. And when people talk about that,
Failure, failure, failure. Lots of it.
yeah, and when I think about that, it's crazy because like when I think about my journey, I didn't experience a lot of things that you experienced. Like I didn't have those times where
You were fairly successful early, right? I mean, you came out from the
I
gate
got blessed. I
hitting
was
it pretty
blessed right
hard.
off from the get-go, right? And I
Yeah,
found success in what I was good at right off the bat. And I didn't have those blunders. I didn't have those setbacks. And then I had a partner in Norm, and he was so optimistic. So even when things did happen, he always found the silver lining on it. So it never seemed bad. But I
yes.
never had to worry about like, how was I going to pay a bill? Or I've got to lay everybody off, right? Like I had to lay off a lot of people once when we lost a big client, but like we still had our core, right? And I'll never forget when I think about your journey and I think about just what you've gone through. I remember that you guys were growing and you had so many people, whether 100 people, a couple hundred people out there, but I remember the day when you were the only one in the office. Like you literally went from like this company that was a big company to being the only person. I, that was before COVID, right? Or was it during COVID? I don't.
That was, well, it was 2008. No, it was so when I got down
Fresh.
that small.
Yeah.
So just I'll back up real quick. Started CLC, left CLC, which was construction labor contractors. We had a bit of a falling out. So in 2000, it was like, hey, it's time to go. I'm going to do my own thing. And I was going to pick a city that I wanted to live in, right? Phoenix, Tampa, Miami, wherever, just somewhere great, right? I was dating my wife at the time, but I was single. I could go where I wanted. And I checked out all these towns and I went to all these cities. And I just kept thinking, man, I'm a Midwestern guy. My clients are up here. I know this town. I picked Indianapolis, Indiana, which, by the way, I love this town. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful place to live. Town. I mean, it just all of it. I don't think it gets nearly the credit and centralized like you wouldn't believe, right? Every single highway to every single city starts right here, Crossroads of America, great place. So I got lucky that I picked this town. And it was almost like Columbus, Ohio, right? Like a circle city, highways, and then tons of land to grow on the outside. So I thought, man, Indiana will be a good place to come. So, decided to open up here. And, story after story about, great failures, great successes, great luck, great music on the radio with sunroofs open. I mean, some of the best times I remember ever with your brother and just, trying to grow this business. And we had some real luck early, right? Like landed a couple big clients, had some good luck. And then, 2008 came and everyone kept saying how bad things are. And this is terrible. And the economy's crashing. My business was killing it. I'm like, man, this is great. I mean, and I never laugh at the other side of traffic. And you've heard me say that before. When I was a traveling salesman, I used to drive up the highway. And if I was going to Pennsylvania or whatever, I'd see the other side of traffic and it'd be like a 3 hour wait. And I'd be like, oh, those bastards, that's got to be the worst. And 2.5 hours later, bam, traffic jam. There I am. And I just remember I'll never laugh at the other side of traffic, meaning someone else's life, man. It's all serious and everyone's going through their own shit, right? But yeah, man, we came up here and had some real good luck. And then 2008 came, still killed it. 2009, we had, I don't know the numbers, let's say 300 and some field employees. In 45 days, we went from that to probably 30. It was incredible. It just was like mass exodus of jobs. We don't need anybody anymore. And again, I'm a filler of labor a lot of times, right? A guy does a steel plant, needs 100 people. He takes 50 from me. Who are the first 50 coming off the job? Mine. And it happened fast. And we went from that many people to 37 people in the field. I think my lowest was 29 in 2010.
Wow.
And it got scary. And then, we could go on podcast after podcast because Dan and I just did the history of NCW, and we spent a lot of time talking about from 2009, when his arrival, in 2010 to today. And you were a big help to me in my life. I mean, there's a day when we were short on payroll. I mean, I was short on payroll for 5 years, every single Monday, right? And our payroll was getting big, six,
Tell,
seven,
tell,
eight,
tell,
nine
tell,
hundred.
explain that so people who are listening understand why you're short on payroll, because your business is successful. You have a lot of people, you got a lot of billing, but why are you short every payroll?
So, as you know, my partner, I brought a partner in 2010. Um, he was my financial planner, super sharp guy. I knew he was probably the guy to do it. And I tried others, as you know, over the years, and it just didn't pan the way I wanted it to. And I finally felt like I found a guy that had potential to run what I thought was a Fortune 500 company. Super talented, young enough not to know enough yet to he could go anywhere. And it felt like I caught him right at the right time. He came over as I was, and the funny thing is, when all that was happening, I think when I started talking to him, I had 150 people. When we were done with our negotiations, I was down to 30. So not only every day was I losing people, I'm thinking, yeah, this guy's got to be nuts. Like if he literally comes to work here, he's the dumbest guy I've ever met. Especially with the opportunities he has, like it's insane. And then I'm showing him like how many guys you working today? 54. Like yeah, things are getting worse, but man, the future looks bright around here. Right? We're gonna kill it. You don't worry about a thing. It's funny. It takes me back to a story, and I know this will get edited, so it's good. We can go into other things. But I remember when I first hired him. I mean, you said what makes me good, right? My dreaming. I'm the greatest dreamer I know. I can dream about anything. I'm not great at accomplishing, but I am a dreamer. And what brings people close to me is like if we're starting to do business, like all the things I think we might be able to do, right? Like, man, in 10 years, blah, blah, blah. And most people are just like, oh, dude, it sounds great. It sounds awesome. I can't wait. And we just go have a steak and we celebrate whatever I talked about. And I remember Dan might have been with me like a week, right? And I was on my lanai in the back cooking steaks, and I think I was smoking a cigar or whatever. And I was just excited he was here. And I said, for 20 minutes, dude, we're gonna do 100 million in sales, blah blah blah, screaming, yelling. I know the guy's just gonna be like, dude, I'm so excited. And we finished the conversation. It's like dead silent on their line. I'm like, hello, hello. He's like, yeah, yeah, I'm here. I said, did you hear me? Yeah, I heard everything you said, and I appreciate all of it. How do you plan to do that? And I was like, what did you say? Are you out of your mind? Like, what do you mean? How do I plan to do it? We're going to do it. He goes, no, I love every part of every idea you just said, but it sounds like a lot of work. What are your plans to get that done? And I knew it that day. I found the right guy. Guy never kissed my ass. Guy didn't give a shit about what I said. All he cared about was what is the game plan to get there. And he's proven that he was not joking around. He was right. That's who he is. And it's
So
been a godsend to me.
So what launched into this was my question to you, and I'm curious to know, where did Dan come into this when you had trouble making payroll, every payroll for 5 years?
Okay,
Is
so
that when he came in?
no, so what happened was I had plenty of money, right? So when business slows down for me, my receivables are out there. I have no bills, right? I'm not paying anybody anymore. So my 400, 300, whatever $1,000 payroll goes to 30,000. I'm collecting the couple $1,000,000 I have out. And I'm not smart enough in business or economics to look into my like, damn, cash is coming in. I got tons of cash. So the good thing is I can grow as much as I want. Like as we continue on, I've got all this money here now. So Dan comes in, we get pretty successful. I mean, this is a different breed of human being, right? And just another quick story because I think it's a funny one. When he was here, probably about 2 weeks, he calls me one day, and again, I know him as my financial planner. We went to games. We were not the closest friends, but getting close, and it felt like I knew him fairly well. And he said, "Boy, I'm so excited, man. My wife's going to Chicago with the kid. Now they have 5 children. I think at the time they had a baby, maybe two." And she's going to visit her sister and taking the kids. And I got the whole weekend to myself. And we're young people. He's 20-some-year-old guy. I'm thinking, oh God, he's going to go to the club. Who knows what he's got in store? But he's excited for it, and that's fine. He said, "Man, I just stopped at Kroger. I bought 6 craft beers. I just ordered a pizza from Giacomo's. I'm going home, and I'm going to send 5,000 unabated emails for the next 3 days to the largest construction companies in the nation." And I'm like, man, I like this. And he was never been so excited. I'm like, this is the guy. Like, this is a different breed of human being. What did he do that weekend? Sent 5,000 emails out.
Right.
And that's when business started. And then it was just a different world, right? We are now a different company. We are now, I've got serious horsepower behind me in this guy. And I'm like, my dreams are going to come true. We're going to go do this. So we start killing it again. And then we thought, you know what, let's open a landscape company because a whole thing, training, and we had all these training guys. So we opened this landscape company. You think, great. Well, the problem is landscape company doesn't want pipe fitters that aren't pipe fitters yet, and pipe fitters don't want to be landscapers. So we opened that company for no reason. But we thought, you know what, we're learning here. Let's open a plumbing company because we're in this business. We can do it. So we thought, yeah, let's do that. We did. And we thought, let's why don't we build high rises in Florida because we are really smart. We're good. We know what we're doing. You remember that? That was
That's
about 1,000,000 too. I think you muted out. I don't hear you.
you can't hear me right now?
Yeah, now I can. Now I can. So you remember, met this company. Everything seemed up and up. Great, humongous company. Hundreds and hundreds of millions. And
I mean,
instead of
you had
leasing labor,
a lot of people on that job. I remember you were building high
oh,
rises
hundreds.
and you didn't
Yes,
know anything about high rises.
nothing, nothing. But I got the smartest guy in America, so we're going to go do whatever. You want to build cars? Let's build cars. Boats? Great, let's do it. I mean, at that point, I felt like there's nothing we couldn't accomplish because I literally found the smartest person I ever met. I'm not saying we made mistakes. I'm saying we just did things one way too quickly. We knew nothing about any of these businesses. And again, how hard is it to go do a landscape job? Like, should be easy.
It's unbelievable how much of a risk taker you are.
Looking back, had I weighed any of this, I would have never done any of it, right? But when it's almost like when you're broke, you can put money on a credit card, like you can gamble, you can do anything because you don't have anything. It doesn't matter.
But I remember you telling me about the high rises, and I remember you telling me about
It was
the landscaping company, and you were you can sell pretty much anything. So there's no doubt that when you have that dream and you're in the visionary kind of mode, that you can sell to anyone, that you can accomplish whatever it is that you're talking about. It sounds great. And I think Dan's question to you is a really good one. How are we going to do that? Because you're not thinking about that. You really don't even care about that. You just know that if it's possible, I could do it.
we can do it. I know we can. I mean, together we can do anything, right? I mean, I believe it. And then, I think the problem is, again, you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And it's the best advice I ever got. And I just always wanted to know. And again, being a bad student and not thinking highly of your, I don't want to say education or your smarts. I never felt all that smart, right? I knew I was a great connector to people and that meant something. How does that turn into anything, right? Except having a few friends. But as as you get older and start realizing what makes Dan great is if he doesn't know, he asks you in a minute because he's so confident in what he knows and what he doesn't know, right? Even a simple thing like a pen, what is that? I don't know what that is. How's it work? He wouldn't be afraid to ask. I've been in this business for 30 years. There's things in construction that I've never asked because I don't want someone to know I don't know. Stupid. Like I just pretend like I know. Yeah, yo, yeah, the thing up there is perfect. Yeah, let's move on with that. Had I been smart, I'd be like, what does that mean and how does that work? You don't know? No, I don't know, and I'd like to know moving forward. That way I'll know next time. But I never lived that way. I just go in blind and I stay blind and I just hope it works out. And I'm a dog. I'll work, man. There's, as you know me, as Dan knows me, as my close people, I'll always be there for you. And I think that helps. There's, 3 in the morning, I'm there. 2 in the morning, I'm there. I'm available.
You are the poster child for how important it is to have incredible soft skills, because you actually purposely don't try to learn certain things that you're not interested in because you just don't care, and you don't care because you know what's possible. And I was in that program, Strategic Coach, and I think I probably have told you this, that concept of who, not how. Like, you don't have to know how to do everything. You just have to know who can. And you have a black book of who's to get whatever you want done. And so, finding a right hand who can come in your business and carry out your dream and do the things that it's capable of doing, that's one. And you're talking about them and you're telling great stories about it, but there's probably a whole slew of people that you have that who to call when you want to get something done, who can do this. And it's good because you have that skill of being able to see the best in whoever it is that you're connecting to. And it's incredible to me how your soft skills, your people skills, that's your unique ability. Like, that's what made you successful in this business. The fact that you were able to convince a financial planner to come into a business that was not doing so good at the time shows you not only that you have the ability to talk to someone in a way that is inspiring, but you have a way to paint a picture in order to get people excited about joining up with you so that they can make it
Yeah.
happen.
And again, I don't like when people brag about any of my skills, but if there's any skill that I'm good at, that is it. I mean, I remember I asked Dan maybe 4 years ago, I'm like, dude, I'm so confused. Like after I did approach him, he hit the streets. Like, what is out there for me? And all of a sudden he got all these huge offers, right? Like this kid was different. And I'm like, oh shit, this is crazy. And when he came in and he called me and he said, hey, I want to come in and talk to you face to face. I knew at that point, kind of guy he is, it was love the offer, appreciate it, found something better, right? He came into my office and he was like, I really want to do this with you. I think it's going to be great. And I was like, damn, this guy's nuts. Like, we have 20 people. We're probably going to be out of business next Wednesday. But whatever. I mean, we'll make it work. And I asked him like 4 years ago, dude, why would you have ever come here? Like, things were getting so bad. Like, I wonder, like, it was insane. The guy had to be nuts. He's like, dude, I wanted to work with you. I really did. And I'm like, man, it means a lot.
You think it's because of your generosity and because of the opportunity to like be your own boss? Like, you look, a lot of talented people can go be a hired gun at other places, but they could swoop the carpet right up from underneath you and you're out on the street, right? When things aren't going so
Right.
good. Where when your word is good and you can do it on a handshake. And I
That's
think
right.
he knew that about you just working with you. I know that about you being your friend. And do you think it was because of the opportunity he had to get a piece of the business?
Well, at the time, so it wasn't really for a piece. And again, a lot of things I've learned. One guy told me once, he said, hey, would you rather have half a watermelon or a grape? Like half a watermelon. Like, that's right. You know, and so many people are so focused on keeping that whole grape for themselves, and you'll chew on that for a week and it's gone. Or would you rather have a whole watermelon last you a long time and split it with somebody? And and I've always been a team guy, right? I'm not a my own guy. Like I can't motivate myself. I mean, I already know I can't do anything. So, I'm stuck here. But when I get around people, like that's my energy, right? And I've learned so much. Like when I was a kid, I just assumed everyone was like me, right? You wake up in the morning, you're smiling, you're happy, you go about it. Everyone just feels the exact same way. And as I'm older, I just realized no one's even close. Like everyone has their own personality, right? And like if I don't have other people's energy, I'm dead. I can't be by myself. I don't want to be by myself. I look back at every bad decision we made. And man, from the time I was a kid, like I can't even explain. So many, like dumb, 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 dumb. I could go through over and over. It's just incredible to me. But the beauty is everything that bad happened turned out to be great. It turned out to be great. When I got fired from Tradesman, I cried. I couldn't believe it. Like, oh my God, I built so much here. It's the greatest day of my life. It's probably the greatest day of my life. When Tim and I split from CLC, I had 4 or 5 years of 80 hours a week, man, built that company, hired 100 and some employees. They only knew me as the owner. They all, this was my people. And then we fight and I'm gone. I'm getting calls next day. Dude, where are you? Like, Tim said, you're not here. What do you mean you're not here? Like, oh, dude, everything's going to work out. Like, I remember my soul was crushed. Like, oh my God, like, that was a lot of work. That was a lot of time. These are a lot of people, man, that we love each other. Like, we've been through so much and now I'm just gone and it's over. And then if anyone called me, they were going to get fired. Like, no one was allowed to talk to me anymore. Funny stuff, right? And I just remember thinking that day, like, man, being a good person and karma, it works. It does. And man, if there's one thing I've done right, it's I don't screw anybody. And there's 100 people here, and I'm sure that's my side of the story. I'm sure there's other sides, but I really feel like I want the best for the next guy. Another thing that I've learned in life, and if I could teach anyone here or my kids, take the less of every deal. Because if the deal is fair, if you made a field deal with somebody and you take a little less, it's still fairly fair, right? So why would anyone ever fight with anyone over anything? It makes no sense. The guy says he worked 50 hours and I know he worked 40, pay the guy 50 hours. Customer says it was $2,000. Get the guy the 2,000. Who gives it? Who cares? It doesn't matter. You want to lose every battle like that. Everyone. Because if you're winning, you're losing. So I think in that case, I try to lose every little battle if I can. Because I want to show people I don't care what difference it makes. We just want to do the right thing, right? That's what
The,
we're here to do.
I've always said you choose to lose. And I actually recently did a video on penny pinching bosses. And in the video, I talked about always overpay. I mean, Norm taught me early on, he would round up even the paychecks up to the next dollar. Like you always overdo it. Exiting employees, you screwed me out of my PTO, pay them, make it go. It makes the problems go away. And you're right, you do win. There's no question. And it's incredible how rare that is and how many entrepreneurs fight and It's unbelievable. It's like self-sabotage.
Mind-boggling, bro.
Yeah, it's like
Mind-boggling.
self-sabotage.
Like, I almost want to just go on a spree. Like, hey, let me just teach you the 7 soft skills of running a business, please. Lose every time, please. Don't ever
Right.
fight with an employee over $400. Would you know if it lost $400? Would you know? No, you wouldn't. Would that guy know? All day long, every day for the next month. Here's 800. What's he going to feel now? Like the whole thing's nuts to me. But
Right.
again, that's our way. It's not everybody's way. And I'm not saying it's right. It just seems to be, I'd rather have someone fighting for me every day than fighting against me every day.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
Um, wow, that's so good. So, real quick, take me back when you were, how did you endure when the business had, and we were talking, you still haven't answered the question. Why were you having such a problem making payroll? You had business and it's like, so explain the cycle with your business just so people know.
So as you know, we're NCW. Back then, we were still NCW, but a lot more national construction. Construction companies tend to pay slower than others. It's just kind of the business. We're in a payroll business, meaning I'm paying my guys every week. So if I have 500 people working, that's a $500,000 payroll weekly, which if a client's paying me in 45 or 60 days, which is consistent, right? I think that's 45 days is about right. It's supposed to be every 2 weeks. It just the turnover time doesn't happen that way. So as we blew our brains out from 2008, 9, and 10, I lost a lot of money. And the other things are like these are winning and losings, right? We kept insurance for everybody, field employees. Like everyone told me how dumb I was, and I was. It was insane. It was so stupid. It's unbelievable. But some of those, I just talked to Eric Law 10 minutes ago. He's been with us 15 years. He was started as a general laborer with me. I held his insurance. He didn't have to, but he would go to he would do anything for me. I would do anything for him, but he would do anything for me. Anything. I'll go call him right now. What do you need done? He'll do it. I would never ask it of him, but I know he would. But those are the little things like, did it affect us then? Huge. Does it affect me now at all? Don't even know about. I don't even remember. But we did the right thing by that guy. And those things, man, it's just, I don't know if to explain it to you.
I'm
You
just
get it.
curious, how did you, and again, going back to the whole entrepreneur thing, how did you endure the lowest of lows when you realize like, holy cow, like, because I remember talking to you and you
Uh,
were always so positive, like you were always so optimistic. Like
well,
how
can I
are
tell
you?
you the happiest? Can I tell you one of the happiest days of my life? This is no joke. This is, yeah, I don't want to get emotional, but this makes me almost want to cry. I don't know if it's because, well, here. So, I talk to you almost every day during those times, right? And I did stay positive, like whatever. I mean, there's people getting bombed. There's people that haven't eaten in a month, like whatever. My problems are so small in the real world of problems. They don't mean anything, right? Anything, nothing. I could bankrupt 5,000 times and get shot in the face. Like compared to real problems, there isn't. So that's how I look at every day when I wake up. Like whatever today faces, I'm not going to the Civil War with a toothache, walking 700 miles to Washington to try to, you know what I mean? Like that's the reality of we live in 2020. Like this is real easy. So that's one reason. But we talked a lot during some, the tough times. I mean, brutal. So I would have payroll on Wednesday. Bank had to have the money by 3 o'clock or whatever, and I'd wake up Monday morning. They'd be like $5,100 in my bank account, and payroll would be like 687. And I'd be like, oh my god! And I still have papers, which is great. Every single person I know and how much I thought I could borrow,
Wait,
which I
600,
was
600,000.
right. Like payroll would be like 600 and some thousand 10 years ago, in 2011. And I'd have literally like some days negative, but like $5,250 in the bank on
And this
Monday.
is simply because your clients haven't paid you yet. You
I
have
haven't paid. So we had to pay. I have to, and I can't not pay an employee, right? They have to get paid no matter what. So yeah, I mean, you know my situation. I mean, I borrowed and the banks wouldn't help me at the time. So I had a bank loan for years. I cut the bank loan because I didn't want to pay the fees because I had all that money coming in. Right, I don't need those banks. I got tons of cash. And then when I needed money, the banks were like, "See ya, you're in the labor business, man. Last thing I want is construction labor." So we had no help from anybody. So I went to you. I went to everyone I knew and friends without even asking for a financial, never even asking for anything, loaned me money and didn't just pay me back as soon as you can. And man, I'll tell you, how did I deal with it? Sleepless nights, a lot of them. But what made it great was I read a lot of quotes. And it's funny because I was when I knew I was going to talk to you, I was reading through some yesterday. what makes quotes great is someone else went through the same thing you did, probably worse, right? But like one I read that I loved, it said, being an entrepreneur is like building a parachute on the way on the way down from the cliff, and it's like somebody else was standing right here just with me. They didn't have any money, they didn't have anything. And it's funny, I know your question was, how did you get into the big problem? Landscape company, not doing well, bidding jobs wrong, losing a fortune, just trying to get it right. Plumbing company, we had all these great plumbers and we had all these great things. No one knew how to run a business. We were terrible at it, just losing our brains. The high rise business, I can't tell you how much we lost. And we didn't even know we lost. Like, we had no idea how bad we were doing until it was so late. And I remember the day Dan came into my office and he's like, and what I love about Dan, right? Like, there's no bullshit. There's no hiding anything. He's like, I just want you to know we're down about $800,000. And like, I had no idea. I literally, I couldn't even believe it. And he was just so matter of fact. He's like, I'm going to make it back. And I remember one day I came in the office, I was literally crying, like tears in my eyes, because we didn't have payroll money. Like, this is over. The whole thing's over. And he's like, hey, man, we can sit here and cry all day. I don't have time to cry. I got to get to work. Like, and I just remember thinking, like, man, this is the guy I want to be in the bunker with, right? Like, I'm sitting here crying like a baby, man. This kid's 29 years old. And maybe it was more on me because, like, my whole reputation, my whole thing's on this thing, whatever. But he took it as seriously as I did. We don't got time to cry, man. Let's get to work. And it was those days that I just remember, like, man, this is going to be fun to build this thing. And we used to say it all the time. Man, I go to the bank like, we literally built a train track from Maine to California. I smashed through fucking mountains. I knocked down 1,000 fucking trees. I wrestled alligators. I beat down a fucking bear. I laid the whole fucking track. All I need now is to put a train on the son of a bitch. But we're not going to make it. Can I just lay the train on and see if the thing works, please? Because I think it really will. No, no money here. Nothing available for you. And it used to make me so sad thinking, oh my God, dude, we did all this work and we're never going to be able to see this train ride.
Right.
Crazy.
I remember the
Sad.
meetings you used to have with your banks. I mean, it's incredible. And to me, when you were making payroll every week, I remember sitting back going, how is this guy doing this? He's calling his friends up who are happy to help and know that the money's good. But like, dude,
That
like,
happy.
what?
And I don't know how good the money. I mean, the money is good because I'm going to pay it back. But if I don't have a business, it's going to be real hard.
Yeah, but you would have made it work. You would have figured it out. But
I paid it back,
and
no
everyone
problem.
knew that. But it's just amazing to me, like when they talk about entrepreneurs and they've been there before. Not all entrepreneurs have been there before. Not all of them have. I think in order to get into entrepreneurship, you should think that that could happen. So can you endure that, right? And you don't think it's going to happen, but you should probably think that it could happen. But when I think back about all the people I know in business, nobody has been through it more than you have, like nobody. And not only that, your situation when you had another person leave your company and then they started competing with you, right? You had it, so you were getting
And he started
punched.
off amazing, right? He's making a ton of money. I'm losing my ass. And this is a guy I've trained, taught, overpaid, right? Like,
Yeah,
and he was real unhappy. I brought this guy in to run the business because he wanted to be that guy. And the guy that left's not a bad guy. But
no,
again, if I'm the smartest guy in the room, we got a huge problem. And I'm not being humble. I'm not like, we've got a huge problem. If I'm driving this ship, who knows where it's going to go? If he's driving the ship, we're in even more trouble. I'm smarter than this guy, right? And I never had people that were this much. But finally, I knew like I have to have a real captain of this thing to
right.
take it where it needs to go. I'm not the guy, I'm a great dreamer, man. I'm not a good operator, you know.
So let me ask you this question. So what's incredible about listening to your story is that you talk about the landscaping, the high rise, the plumbing company. You had all these scenarios and you learn from every single one of them. And when you think about the losses and you think about what you've gained from those experiences, okay, good. But then, I'm talking to you a few months ago, and all of a sudden you're doing it even more, and you're doing it on a bigger scale. Today, you're opening up restaurants, which again, not your forte,
Stupid,
not your
stupid. It's so stupid. Honestly, like I'm dealing with it right now. But what makes it here it is, man. Just real simply, right? Like we get one shot of it's it. It's one chance. I mean, maybe hundreds, who knows? But from what I know and what I can gather, we might have one chance here at this one, whatever. And it's a pretty good spot to be, right? We live in a free place. We can do kind of what we want as of today. We can do the things we want to do in a free country. It's pretty cool. And I'm a lazy guy, man. I'll be the first. You know me, man. But my mind's working. And my whole life, all I wanted to do, and this is no joke. I mean, my dream was to have a 3-story building 100 employees come in. Hey, Steve. Hey, buddy. You're the best. Great, great, great. Like that was my dream my whole life. It's all I ever wanted. It's the greatest thing in the world. And honestly, dude, like we used to talk about The Secret or whatever. And, I'm not a big believer in anything but everything, right? Like anything's possible. When someone says there's no ghost, well, there's humans. There's probably go like, come on. So I'll believe in anything or nothing, right? I lost my train. What was I saying?
I
What
don't
was I
know,
going to say?
but it just made me think of, I was watching some guy the other day and he said, everything in this world is absolutely amazing. You think you live in America? He goes, you're on a planet flying through space in a vast of nothing that
Right,
goes on forever.
forever. And we don't get bombarded by asteroids all day. We don't have biting squirrels every time we walk out of our house that just completely attack us. We can't leave our home. Like to me, that's amazing. It really is. And you think about like that's what we were talking about. We have one shot on Earth, right? Maybe, or who knows? But we're literally on a floating rock, right, in the middle of nowhere. We don't get bombarded by asteroids all day long. We have gravity, like we have oxygen. We have fingernails. Like imagine not having a fingernail, and everything would hurt like a son of a bitch if it touched you. You have eyelashes. Dust doesn't get in your eyes. Like the shit's mind-boggling. So I just want to get
You
as
know,
much done as I can
I remember when I
while I
started
have.
getting religious and I was using all these things because nothing made sense. I started asking the big questions in life. And I remember you saying I would always talk to you. And one of the things I loved about you was you just let me be me. And you just, and if we agreed to disagree on something, that was it. And it was just always laughing it off. But we had such respect for each other. But I remember you saying to me, no, dude, I don't want to know. I don't want to open up Pandora's box. I'd rather not know. I
I'm not
remember
going down the
thinking,
rabbit hole because it might be right. Who knows? I just know that I don't want to be involved in any of that shit right now. And maybe someday, you know, maybe
oh my
someday.
gosh. Wow. It's so funny. The one thing I would say about what I've learned about you is that as much as you don't know, you do know what you believe. And it's very rare because most people are so heavily influenced by everything else, especially today, which we're bombarded with our phones buzzing and beeping next to our pillows at night, right? And you are definitely one that goes against the grain. You're an outlier in that you just don't care one what other people think, even though you do, but not that much. But
Sure.
but you know what you believe. And one thing I've realized about you as I've gotten to know you really close over the years is that you think very differently than other people, very differently. And it's I do too, but yours is you're really really like blunt about it, extremely blunt. Is it because you believe in it so much, or because you just don't really care what people think about what you think?
I think I do care what people think what I think. I do. I think I really do care a lot. I just think that I think and again, you said who was my influence? Like my dad used to always say, if you could be yourself in a world like this, it's the hardest thing in the world to be. Really try to be yourself. I never knew what that meant, right? As I get older, what is being yourself? Being yourself is having conviction in something, right? Whatever it is, in your marriage, in your family, in your business, like just having real convictions. But conviction's only real if it's real. Like you can't have a conviction if you're trying to have something that's not real. So I just realized like school's not my conviction. Cars are a conviction. I love cars. I love them. I read about them. I look at them. I want to buy one. I look at them every day. It's somewhat of a conviction to me. Um, Building a bit like you said I'm getting in this restaurant business. Everyone that I know, I'm insane, I'm stupid, I'm crazy. 100%. I know. But at the end of the day, man, I'm going to build a culture. I'm going to try to do something. Whether it works or not, who cares? I'm going to go do it. I got one shot at the world. So it doesn't work. Okay, it didn't work. I was wrong. If I've been wrong a million times, I'll be wrong a million more. But if I'm not trying, I'll never know, right? So, listen, man, it's easy to talk about now because I'm not calling you on Monday saying, fuck, I'm screwed, bro. Like, it's over. It's over. And I did that every week for 5 years.
Right.
It got tiring. It got old. So it's easy to talk about today. It was really hard then. Oh, I was going to tell you what was my happiest moment. I went to a Starbucks. I used to be able to call some clients now and again and be like, hey, man, I'll give you a 2% discount. You got to send me 100 grand, prepay for services, and paying me. Like you look like it's not a great situation, but I had a few clients that would do that for me from time to time. And I'd always wait till Tuesday morning because I didn't want to know the answer. I just wanted to be able to sleep Monday and just hope it was going to happen. And usually something would happen. Well, this particular week, I called my largest client, the guy worked for me for a while, that is the CFO, and I called him. I said, "Hey, I really need some help this week again." He's like, "Man, we have not gotten checks. I do not have it. Can't help you." I've never had a attack. I've never had. I sweat. My shirt was literally in 1 second. I went from this to being completely soaked, like I got out of a swimming pool. I thought I was having a heart attack. I still don't know what happened to this day. I know that I just realized that my business ended that day. Like, it's over. We're done. And I can't believe it. We bought all that track and it's done. And that was probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And I got off the phone. I couldn't believe it. Like, I didn't even know what to do. And I wanted to call Dan and tell him, but I just needed to take a minute, like, to let him know, like, dude, I've called everyone. At that point, I think I even had money out with you. Like, there's nowhere else to go right now. And I went to a Starbucks and my bill was like $4 and I gave the lady $10. I'm going back. Like, who gives a shit? I think I gave her $20. I go, you know what? You keep it. She goes, what? I can go ahead and keep it. And I gave her a big smile. She goes, boy, I haven't seen a smile like that in a long time. And I walked back to my car. And I'm like, fuck, if I can smile through this shit, man, I could probably smile through about anything. Right. I mean, I'm still having a good day today. So, and that was probably my last day. And I'll tell you what's even funnier. And God, I shouldn't say this on speaker because who knows if it was even right. Dan calls me about, I called him, told him, hey, man, we're going to struggle. And again, he doesn't listen to problems. So he figured it out and I got work to do. We'll talk tomorrow. Right. And he called me like an hour later. He goes, bro, you're not going to believe this. I'm like, what? He goes, I just opened the mail. I got something from the power company, IPL. I mean, Indianapolis Power and Light. It still gives me shivers. Like, it's crazy. Of course, it's a bill, right? He goes, dude, there's a $90,000 check here. They've been overpaying for 24 years. I'd only been in the business 4 years or in the building. So we got a credit. And since we owned the business, it was ours. Made our payroll that week. Like, I'm not religious, that, right? I'm a spiritual guy. Like, I have fingernail. We talked about there's, all these crazy things out there. Go, like, if there's not a God, I don't know if IPL's ever given anyone anything in their lifetime. They gave me a check for $89,000. It wasn't even my money. And I needed like 113. And I went to my bank. I got like four. Dan got like six. And I had one of the guys working give me like three. And we made payroll. We wouldn't have. We would not have made payroll. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, that's my religion right there. Incredible.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Tell me about, I remember asking you questions when things were tough, and you had told me that you love like the self-sabotage and being in the place of self-sabotage. And I remember you going, I love it. I love it. That's where I'm the best.
I do.
And
I hate it.
You love to hate
it. It wakes me up.
Right.
It wakes me up.
Like, it's a big fear of mine. Like, I never want to find myself in those shoes, but like, is it because of the reps? Because you've gotten so many reps that you just, I always say it's like the 4 C's. I learned this from Dan Sullivan. You build confidence when you make a commitment to do something, and you have to have the courage to do it. And once you do it, you build the capability to be able to do it over and over again. And you had experienced so many things that you like, I've been there, done that. Like, I'll get through this. And like, for someone like me who's never been in a situation where I couldn't make a payroll, the thought of that would scare the hell out of me. Like, there's no way I don't know what I would do. But like, you didn't want to be there, but you were actually really good in those moments of like, just shit. And I remember you saying that you loved it. You used to tell me that you loved it. And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't understand.
Well, I remember walking around my kitchen island every night, right? Like, literally for hours, just walking, trying to figure it out. Like, and it was mainly like, where am I going to get money? Like, I felt good about everything we were doing, right? Like, there was nothing I was disappointed about except it wasn't going to work. Like, we didn't have enough runway. It was so sad. And I just remember thinking, man, not a lot of people get to experience this, regardless of how hard it is or how bad it is. Like you said, not a lot of guys, our payroll's a couple $1,000,000 a week now, right? And I'm so happy for that. And I feel like I want the biggest payroll here because I feel people deserve to work here. I don't want people working for other companies because they get taken advantage of. They get screwed. They don't pay is not right. Like, that bothers me. I want them working here because I think they'll be treated fairly. But like, whether it's a $500,000 payroll, $2 million payroll, like, there's not a lot of people in the world that have to worry about making a $500,000 payroll and not being able to do it. Like,
Right.
that's kind of exciting that I'm one of those people that get to feel that in some ways. As scary as it is, I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not sitting in a toll booth collecting quarters at a time, which is not a bad job either, but that wouldn't be good for me, you
Right.
know? And
Right.
it definitely expands your mind. It makes you think a lot. But at the end of the day, man, I'll always bring it back to karma and treating people right. Like things happen because they're supposed to happen. And if this not work, something else would have happened, probably even better. Who knows? You don't know until it, right? But at the end of the day, we live in an incredible place. It's incredible, right? I mean, karma's real. There's unnatural things that happen all the time that are unexplainable. You know, call it God, call it a water bottle, call it who knows, whatever it is, I'll respect it, and I'll leave my mind open to the fact that yes, there is a possibility of that for sure,
Let me ask you this question
because
though.
I'm
Like,
just a little thing.
when it comes to like the self-sabotage, do you think that you're such a good salesperson? Because, I've watched you and I've watched you with other people. You used to tell me too, like your wife used to get mad at you because you would be on your rant and people would be attracted to you and like she knows you and she just like
I'm talking nonsense, talking utter nonsense, and then having like I'll never forget the day we went to that party, and there was all these college professors, and the one guy ran this. I can't remember the fund. It's the biggest education fund in America. I mean, all these super sharp guys. And my wife's like, "Hey, don't be like talking crazy tonight, you know." And we get into the back room and I start talking about politics. And, my belief in politics is, whatever. I mean, if you're left, if you're right, you're wrong. If you're voting for any of these people, you're wrong. I promise you that. If anyone's willing to run for that office, I'm not voting for you. I'll make that real fucking clear. But, people are so left, so right, so this, so that, so pro,
uh,
so this, pro, this. Like, you don't. But I have these guys in the back room, maybe like 20 of them, and everything I'm saying, they're laughing and giggling. I see my wife over the corner, like, oh, you know. But it is a connection because I don't have a pig in any fight, right? I'm just here, and I think it's funny when someone's like, I'm so left, I'm so left, I'm so right, I'm so right. Like you don't even know what you're talking about. No one does. We have no clue what's going on, right? And we just all everyone knows. You don't know nothing, and just keep it that way. Keep an open mind.
tell me, let's switch gears real quick. What's the hardest thing about being a parent?
Love, caring for somebody more than you care for yourself, worrying about somebody more than you've ever worried about anything in your lifetime.
Not having any control.
Knowing the world is a hard place, right? Like for you, for me, we can handle it, right? Like, and I don't want anyone to go through anything, right? I want the world to be a peaceful, happy place, and I know it's not. There's a lot that goes on in this world that's bad. But the hardest part about being a parent is love and caring as much as you do, I think. And it's just a natural thing. I don't think it's something you work on. It just happens when you have kids.
Yeah, when I had my kids, I remember one of my employees said, "Welcome to fatherhood. It's the day that your heart gets ripped out of your chest and lives outside your body for the rest of your life." And I remember thinking,
Well,
"Wow,
we
that's
used to
pretty
talk
rough."
about it. Like, you're as happy as your saddest kid, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So crazy. Would you want your kids to come in your business?
No.
Why?
Would I want it? No, I mean, no, I wouldn't. I'd be open to looking at something like that. A lot of reasons, right? Like I think making your own way is important. I think walking into something that someone else did as a son or any type of family, I think puts somebody in a really tough spot, right? So I hope that doesn't happen, but I'm open to anything, right? I've always been open to whatever, but
Right.
I'd prefer my kids find their own way, whatever it would be.
Real quick, back to business. You had an individual, you don't need to say his name, who came into your life at a certain time. He was like more of a mentor kind of a guy. And I don't remember if he was trying to buy your company or if he was trying to like, merge or something like that. But through that experience, what would you say if you had to like take something away from that you either learned that was very powerful for you or something that you saw that you learned that like repelled you? Like, I don't, that's just like you learned that that's not what you want. Like anything that you learned from that whole experience.
It's funny, right? And I'll give you an example today, and I shouldn't. We have a customer that's in a bit of trouble. Okay, we're not super flush, but we have some money now, right? And Dan just came to me this morning and said, "Hey, man, this is a good friend of mine, good thing, and he needs a loan. And we could probably buy into his business, could I even get a percentage, but I'd really just rather loan him the money and get him out of this problem." And I said, whatever, whatever you want to do. I trust Dan with my life. If he wants to give the guy my house, I'll let him do it, right? So no problem, no problem. And I hung up the phone. I was thinking about that exact situation. I thought, man, why I love Dan? Because he's doing this for no reason other than doing something good for someone else to try to get them out of a problem, right? And then he'll go back and say, remember when we were helped? We weren't helped. I was helped financially to get through my payroll for really bad reasons. Someone was trying to take over my business. You remember the phone call
You
I
remember that?
gave to you
Yeah.
coming home from that meeting that day.
Yeah.
What does this mean? You're like, if you sign that paper, this guy has complete control of your business. And we don't need to give names. Bad person, bad guy, bad man. We're doing the exact same thing for someone else for the right reasons, to help, not to take over, not to be a scumbag, you know. But again, I couldn't have done it without him either. He helped me tremendously financially during a super hard time. And again, I gave him discounts. I got paid for it. It wasn't like out of the goodness of his heart. And there was already labor. I mean, it's not like he did anything outside of the fact that he was going to use labor and he got 2.5% discount, which is a big deal.
That's funny.
So,
Because I forgot the scenario behind him. Now I remember it very clearly.
yeah.
And it's a very powerful lesson to learn for sure. And, what I learned just through selling my businesses was that I love business. I love it, right? But I'm not a business guy. And the reason is because it's not that I don't love to be able to be successful in business, but there's a difference, and it's a nuance, but there's a difference between two great business people, one who loves to pursue being successful and loves business and in general and growing his business, but there's the other set of people who actually like to do it at the expense of other people. They like to take what's not theirs necessarily, or they like to make a deal and negotiate in a way that they're, and I don't have that in me. Like I'm just not that way. And I actually can't stand it. It's why I didn't want to start another business and grow another business.
And I can't stand the people, and no offense to them, because what makes a great businessman is that. That's
Right.
what makes you great. Getting the
Right.
best of every deal, screwing someone just a little bit, making sure they get a little bit less than you. I want you to get a little bit more than me. I've got enough. And it's not money. Like, listen, two things, right? We didn't hit our goals last year. And we came up at this Ignite and everyone had to get up. I didn't hit my goal because of this. I didn't hit my goal because of this. I didn't hit my goal because of this. And I never set a goal in my life. Like I don't even know what a goal means. Like I don't know. What's tomorrow? My goal is to get through tomorrow. Figure it out tomorrow. And then we'll get through Wednesday then. And I'm not saying that's right. I know it's not right. But I don't give a shit about goals or what happened tomorrow or what you're doing next year. I remember my boss used to say, write down goals. It took me a minute and a half. Bam, there's my goals. Like, I don't know. Like, what do you want me to do? Who knows what's going to happen next year? I have no clue. But this year we didn't hit our goals. And everyone got up and explained why. And it was a great meeting. I had no problem. And at the end, I just said it now. I said, listen, these goals are measured by numbers. They're measured by numbers. Like they're just numbers, right? So we made an extra million or an extra 100,000 or an extra 12,000. But that doesn't mean anything. What I measure this in is the people that are involved in this organization. Are we growing good people? Are we getting better as a company because we have great people here? Yes. Who get in 20 years, those numbers don't mean anything. But I promise you, in 20 years, if you build what I think we can build here, fuck, man, how special to have the greatest people in the world. Oh, come here. Give me numbers. I'll show you the
So,
numbers in 20
so let me
years.
ask you a
Oh,
question. So,
hold on. You went away. Oh, the hell? Can you see me?
yeah.
Yeah.
So you used to walk through my office and that I'm a culture guy. Like that's all I cared about was what you're talking about. So I certainly understand it. And in your industry, definitely a tough industry. In my industry, definitely a tough industry. So we were doing it both in really hard industries. But you used to have this thing where you couldn't believe that people had their pictures on the wall. Explain that.
We were talking about last week.
Tell me about
Yeah.
that and tell me the
Well,
philosophy.
this was just for me, right? So my background was I was normally fired, and again, for a good reason. I was never a very good employee. I was never a very good worker. But when I'd get a new job, I'd walk in, I'd get a cubicle or whatever I'd get, and I'd just put my desk down, and you always go out and buy that, little desk leather thing, to make sure you look professional. I get one of those, put something on my desk. And I'd look around, like people would have pictures of their families, their girlfriends, their house, their dreams, like all these notes on their thing. I'm like, God, man, that guy's really, really invested. He thinks he's going to be here for a long time, you know? And all I ever thought was, when I get fired, I want to be able to get my shit out of here fast. Like, I don't want to have to take shit off the wall. You know what I mean? People look at me like, hey, dude, sorry, man. Like, I'm just going to have a little box, bam, gone. See you later. You know what I mean? And it's funny when I came to your office, right? I commented like, God, a lot of people have a lot of stuff on the walls, like they got their sound machines and they got the thing, like they plan to be here for a long time. They made this a home. So when I do see somebody walk into my office and they make the place a home and they do housekeeping, I'm like, man, there's somebody that has plans. I never had any plans. And I'm going to be here as long as I can. When you get rid of me, I'll go somewhere else. But
Right.
yeah, I've always thought that was interesting when somebody makes their office a home.
Yeah, it is. I used to say, people say we're a family. I'm like, we're not, I'm going to make it real clear. We're not a family. Like, we can be close. And I'm all about building transformational relationships. I mean, I did it with people who were with me 15, 20 years. But at the end of the day, and I think my lesson for me really kind of hit home. And it was funny. It really made me think about it when you talked about one of the people you have in your office that's been there for 15 years and would do anything. I had more than a few that would do that. But when I sold my company, it was a rude awakening. And the truth of entrepreneurship and being an employer is that you really don't know as much as you think you do, but you really don't know what they really think if you're the one paying them. Because
Oh,
people's true colors come out and things shift when you're not their boss anymore.
you betcha. You
And I
betcha.
never experienced that because I was for 25 years in that role with
Same
everybody
business.
that I was around me. But I got a rude awakening and it was a very difficult exit for me.
I bet.
It was very hard for me. And I still to this day, it's like one of the biggest regrets that I have is just like how it ended and but it's amazing how, at the end of the day, the one thing that I learned from that, and it's so sad to even say it, but it's so true, is that, and maybe because I'm on so the opposite end of it, I think I am. Everyone's selfish. Everyone cares about themselves, and maybe they should, right? Like you need to look out for yourself. You got to put food on the table. You got to put your family first, and I get that. And as much as I've always tried to be overly generous and try to help anyone I can at the expense sometimes of even whatever I'm either not getting or whatever, I always made sure to take care of myself. I wanted to keep it as fair as I could, but I certainly was mindful of it. But at the end of the day, what I learned was that at the end of the day, it may not be a bad thing. People are selfish. People care about themselves. At the end of the day, if someone's paying you, it does change the relationship. There's no question. It's a different situation when the person's got their name on your check, and you really, if you're in a position right now, even listening to this, you really don't know what people really think if you're the guy at the top, and that's why it's real
Yeah.
lonely at the top. It's hard, man. It's a hard,
It's very, it's funny that old saying, it's very lonely at the top. I don't know what the top is, right? But that's the problem. There is no top. Like
right?
I always thought someday I'd be on the top of this thing with cool things like, today's the day I did it. Like there is no day like that. There is no I won, I lost. It's next journey, right? And for me, like I started taking breathing and yoga super seriously, right? And you asked me the other day, just in general conversation, we were talking, you said, do you meditate? And I said, I try, I'm not very good, blah, blah, blah. And I thought about it like the last 3 days. I probably meditate. You said more than anyone. I think I do. Like I meditate all the time. I'm breathing, I'm learning. To me, this next journey in my life is going to be like, listen, I went to school. First of all, I went to religious school, right? And they start talking about, a sea parting and someone turning into sand or whatever. And I was like, what? Like, this can't be real. Like, I'm looking around like, what is going on around here? Like, I love these stories, but no one turned into sand. No one parted. Like the sea might have been like who, whatever the story is. I haven't seen it today, right? Then I went to high school or middle school or elementary school, whatever school, and all I heard about how dumb I was. I don't try, and like, I'm not that dumb. I'm around my friends. Like I'm comparing what I kind of do compared to what everyone else does. I may not know how to read very well. I don't think I'm dumb. Like this doesn't make any sense. Why am I judged on how well I can read a story or how well I understand algebra? It made no sense. And then I got through school and I thought, I'm a pretty good connector. I know people. I have good relationships. Like that means something, right? This guy's been in the book the whole high school thing. He doesn't know how to talk to a guy. I don't want to be that either. Like there's got to be some middle ground somewhere. But we had this ignite. I had this coach come in, a breathing coach, and she's a yoga instructor. I didn't know it, and she was just teaching us how to breathe. And the couple years before, and you and I were talking Wim Hof. 4 years ago. So I started taking the cold showers. I started breathing. And I was terrible at it. I tried to do meditation. It lasted like a minute and a half. I'd be like, God, man, my mind is screwed. I'm screwed. I don't know how to meditate. And I tried to stretch, and everything was uncomfortable. So I went to this girl and I said, hey, listen, I want to learn how to breathe. Can you spend a couple months with me? And yeah, I'd love to, and super organic gal. And she came over and we started breathing. She was, can we incorporate yoga into this? And I'm like, God, I'd love to. I'm just so bad at yoga. She was, you're not bad at anything. It's all practice. Like, it's just like anything else. You're going to be bad if you don't do it. You're going to be good if you practice at it. So it's funny. 2 years ago this week or last week now, I started with this gal and I see her twice a week, every week. And then I do it on my own. And my new journey is one of, I never knew how to breathe for a second, right? I don't know what anxiety is. I don't know what any of that. Like when my wife used to say, "You're so anxious," I'd be like, "Oh, you're not anxious. So anxious. Me? Like, what are you talking? I'm such a strong guy. Like, I'm anxious. Like that's insane. That seems weak as could be." And I look back, like I bite my nails. I'm the most anxious human being that's ever lived. Maybe all I am is anxious. I can't. Like, but I couldn't even accept that because it just sounded like such a like a. I'm stronger than that. What are you talking about? And I learned how to breathe and do yoga when I was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. You could have thrown me off the side of a building. I'd be so loose, I'd just bounce back up, walk away, right? But from that time, everything that ever happened to me, I held in, I held tight. Why in the world are we learning geometry in high school? Who gives a fuck? Right, right angle? I'll never use a right angle in my lifetime, ever. Never. I'm 55. I've never used one once. I'll never use one. Algebra? What are you talking about? My sister's a science teacher. Makes tons of sense. I know a biologist. Makes a lot of sense. A sales guy does not need any of that shit. But what a sales guy or another normal human needs is when I go into kindergarten, day one, first hour is breathe. All we do is breathe. That's it for an hour. The next hour is yoga. All we do is stretch. That's all we do. That's it. We got our entire body stretched out. Now we go learn a couple things. Not algebra. How to get along with somebody, right? English, a little bit of history, like things that we really, truly need. But more than anything, what we need is to learn how to breathe and stretch. More than anything. And I don't know anything about it. When I say I'm this far on my journey, like I haven't started yet, but I do know it's the most important thing to do because I've never felt so good in my life about how I breathe now. And God, we talk about all those days like walking around the aisle, but I was so fucking tense, dude. I wish I would have known how to breathe. Like it would have helped so much. But yeah, that's my journey moving forward. I'm 55 years old, and I keep looking at my life like, oh, my life's done. Like it's over, right? I had my journey, I had my run. It's been great. It's been fun, and bam, I'm 55. It's done. Now I'm trying to look at it like I'm going to try to get as young as I can for the next 30 years. How young can I get? Because there's two groups of old people that can move around and have fun and go to Europe and eat pizza and walk around. And some guy's walking in a walker that can't even eat anymore because he has diabetes and he's sick. I want to be number one. I want to be that first group on my next stage of life. It's really important. Health is
plus with all the new technology that's out, life extension is like a real conversation that people have because they're creating things that will allow us to live a lot longer. I mean, it's already out. I mean, they're doing it and it's going to be a lot.
And if I live longer, it's got to be healthy. I don't want to be sick. I don't want to, the day I'm not healthy, man, good night. Take me to the next journey, wherever the hell that is, in the ground, up in the air. I don't care. Get me there quick.
Right.
Because I want to enjoy what I got right here.
Right. All right. We got to wrap things up. I got one more question here. So tell me something that you believe that other people think is crazy.
So many. I mean, probably about 80% of what I think most people think is crazy.
Right. So I knew that was going to be your answer. So if you were to think about like, what's one that like you just really believe, but like everyone thinks it's crazy, or that you're crazy.
How I do business, people think is absolutely insane, right? The deals I made with my partner, everything I've ever done, people think and I probably am. Like, who knows? But at the end of the day, I think for me, realizing I'm confident enough in myself that there is no rule book in anything, right? All we did was grow up with rules. So you can't do this, can't do this, can't do this, can't do that, can't do this. And all I did was break them every single time I could. Can't eat a candy bar, I'll eat 10 candy bars. Can't eat ice cream, I'll eat the whole box of ice cream. Can't stop me, you know what I mean? But I think growing up now, I realize there is no rule book. Like you do what you feel is right. And whatever that is, whatever that feeling is, it's right. It's right. Because you
because
can't make bad decisions.
everybody follows conventional. You know, like I always say when I first started my business, my goal was to do things the exact opposite of everyone else because I knew that call centers people hated. I knew that clients didn't like, not being passed off to the sales rep and then to a customer service. So I just did everything the opposite and it worked so good. And so like when I hear you say that, it's interesting. You say 80% of what you do. I look at your business. I mean, the amount of revenue that will be generated out of your organization just as a corporation is in the what ballpark?
I mean, we're over 100 million. Our goals next year 150 million.
So when that I think I saw a statistic the other day that if you make over $400,000, you're in that top 1%, right? And so when you think about the amount of businesses and you think about a business generating that much money, that big, you're talking about a hairline fracture of people in the world. And so when I think about how successful what you've done, I truly believe knowing you, it's that outlier in you that just does not want to do what everyone does. And you go with your gut and you're wrong a lot, but you learn from it, you turn them into wins, and you even repeat them.
All the time.
You even repeat them.
But you know what? I tell you this. I will tell you this. The I think the transparency of being open to losing
Yeah,
turns people on,
for sure.
right? Like I'm okay to lose, man. I'm okay if you lose. I'm okay if we all lose. But losing is giving up. We quit. Losing this battle made you better for the next one. And
Right.
man, God, what a journey, right? Like I think about had this gone really smooth from the day Dan started, like probably as well as anyone in the world the struggles, like tough, tough, tough days, man. Fun though, exciting. But had they not been there, man, this would not be nearly as enjoyable, right? This is the stories are funny, the struggle was real, but never felt like it shouldn't have been there. It always felt like this is supposed to happen, even when it was happening.
Well, it's funny
And
because
I just think embracing what goes on in your life, man, enjoying it's the biggest thing. Like just enjoying what happens to you.
when you have an ability, and I have this too. It's one of our strengths is the ability to be transparent and be vulnerable with other people, and it's very real. And I know that what I see is what I get with you, and it's not like which Steve am I getting today, and
Right.
you're not hiding things. And I think today people are so concerned with their double personalities, and they're trying to hide who they are. And this, I know that if you're walking into a bank, or if you're walking into my office, or if you're walking into your house, you're the same guy. And I love that about you. I think that's a very special quality that you should never lose. And I think that most leaders who fail to be transparent and kind of let people in a little bit, and there's risk there because people can squash you, they can take advantage of it, they can hurt you.
And
But I
that's
think
okay. That's okay.
it is okay. And the wins outweigh those so much because people just want to feel that they're with someone real. They just do. And it's rare. And that's why it's so refreshing. It's why people are attracted to you. That's why I think you win so much in business. And I think it's a very, very special quality. So you think about what they're teaching in college and you talk about geometry. It's so true, right? Because you can go and spend $100,000 and literally come out with a degree that does zero, or you can spend all day watching YouTube and have free courses about
Learn everything you
soft
want.
skills and learn everything you need to crush every interview, get any job you want, get money from anyone, and it's all free. It's all just, I mean, I've learned more just from AI in the past year. It's
And I don't even
unbelievable.
understand AI. Here's the thing, right? There was a time, I went to college for 1 year. It was $5,800, which was a fortune. And my dad was like, don't screw this up. You don't take this seriously. Oh, yeah. Uh, and I think about the $5,800 I blew because I blew it. I never even spent a second at school. Never even bought books. I kept the book money for myself. But the $5,800 was probably about 15% of what my dad made in 1990. Right? He was probably making $65,000 a year, maybe not quite much, but let's say it was 10%. He was probably making 45,000, 50,000. So it was probably 10% of what his salary was. Big dollar. Today, the average salary is what? I have no idea. In
100
schools,
maybe.
the average school is probably 20K.
Right.
So school's probably 100% of someone's salary today. It made a little bit of sense back in the day, like 10%, try it out, see if it works. At 100% of your salary, it doesn't even make sense. And then these schools have all this endowment money. Like they said, they could pay for Harvard students for like 173 years and they never have to collect another nickel and they pay for all their school.
Right.
Yet they increase the price every year. Biggest racket in America. Like, get me in
And
on that.
and then you look at the debt, the amount of debt. I mean, it's the system's going to crash. There's no, it
At a
cannot
real,
sustain.
at a real, and they don't even give a discount on, like, if you're going to give a guy a student loan, of course it's at 0% or 1% because you're bettering yourself. So we're going to smash it for 7.5%. You'll never get out of this debt ever, but keep
Unbelievable.
going to school.
I mean, look, I saw it from a collection perspective. I mean, the amount of people in collections right now and the amount of debt, it's so alarming. And there's so much money and the breaks that the schools get with, I mean, it's unbelievable how much of
Well,
a
they don't
racket.
pay taxes. Like, it's almost like being a religious organization. The greatest thing in the world. Collect all you can, pay nothing, do what you can with the cash for yourself, and just, the whole thing to me has gone crazy. But it is what it is. We live in a great spot. The world's crazy. There's no doubt about it. It always will be. I mean, you can look at go back to 1908, world's falling apart. 1927, worst country in the world. 1929, the whole world collapsed. 1960, 1970. This thing keeps doing that because I'm banging the table. But anyway, it's always been that way. It's always good. It's always bad. It's your perspective, and I try to keep a good perspective if I can, and I think that suits me well.
Well, you have an interesting perspective, my friend. I appreciate our time together. You're fun to talk to, and I will try to get you back to do another one because we can go on all day. I mean, I think
Dude, so many. It's great, and so many about you, right? Like we didn't even get into any of your stuff, which is so much, like so much, incredible. I mean, I think back about all the time we spent. The other thing is that this is funny, and this is like the grim reality. You said, like, when you sold your business, you realize, like, people aren't exactly what you think, or people may view you differently than what you think, right? And all those things are hard to deal with, but they are real. They're true. And it's like I look at the way the world works today and in my life. When I was a young guy, like 30, 35, I had a million, I don't know about friends, but people I knew, right? And I'd play golf and we'd go out and we'd talk, but we had common goals. Like we wanted to grow something, we wanted to do something. Someone would listen to my bullshit. So, and now I look and I'm like, do I even want to be with these guys? No, don't even. The only thing I liked about them was they listened to me and they'd go to dinner and they'd play golf, right? But if the guy's a big, his views are completely different than what mine are. And now that I'm older, it's like, who do I want to spend my time with? And it makes me sad that I don't want to spend time with people that I think are really good friends of mine. They're not really good friends of mine. They're people that listen to my shit. I didn't need them at that time in my life.
right.
And my life's moved. I'm different now. They're different now. And it's okay. Right? Season, reason, or lifetime. That's it. And ours is probably gonna be a lifetime. We've known each other a long time, been through a lot
Yeah,
of stuff,
it's
and I
funny.
appreciate it.
I had someone ask me the other day, what's one of the hardest things that I've experienced through my journey? And my answer, which is crazy now that I'm talking to you, was I've changed so much in my life on purpose. Like I've pursued change, like I've pursued growth, I've pursued a spiritual path, a professional path, everything that I've done. And um, I think what I've learned is that one of the hardest things to do is to change in front of the people that you love
Because
because
they're gonna have a view. They're gonna have an opinion of your change.
they are, and you can have the courage to do it and knowing that it's going to change the relationships is it's one of the I don't know if there's anything harder to do that because these are people that you love, these are people that you're around all the time, and so much of my circle has changed over the years, and there's been a few people who have been that constants, and a couple of them are the ones who are or a catalyst of that change, or their coach, or like a rabbi or something like. But you're probably one of my only friends that wasn't in the mentor position and I think it's because what I learned about that being the hardest thing is that when you have the courage to do it, you'll find out who really loves you.
That's right. That's
And
right.
as I was going through all my changes, your love for me had always increased. You didn't always agree, but you supported and you always were there. And I appreciated that. So I just want you to know that I'm very grateful for that. I don't know if I've ever shared that with you, but I feel very blessed to have that with our relationship. And it's very meaningful to me because I know how hard it is.
That means a lot to me. You say it. And for me, Chad, honestly, I mean, how I feel, right? Like my views of everything. I've been very open about everything. What I
Yeah.
respect about you the most is you don't give a shit. You're going to do what you're going to do because you need to do it. I respect the shit out of it, whatever it is, whether it's exact opposite of what I would do, you're doing it. And I love it. And I love you for it. And I do.
Great, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Well, nothing but love and success for you, your family, your
Awesome.
business, your partner. And we need him to do good for sure, because you're relying on him very heavily.
Very heavily, very heavily, very.
Okay, my
But
friend.
again, man, it's another relationship that I'm just so proud of, right? I'm so proud to be a partner with this guy, and I really am. I always will be,
So
unless
great.
he proves different. But
So
yeah,
great.
I've been very blessed and very lucky, and I really appreciate it more than anything.
All right. Until next time.
Yeah, till next time. Talk soon, bro.